Welcome to Barbara's Bulletin, the podcast where we bring you the latest news and updates from around the world. We have a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. We're starting with a story out of the UK, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing a fresh upheaval after Britain's top civil servant, Chris Wormald, quit his post as Cabinet Secretary after just 14 months. This resignation comes amidst a tumultuous week for the PM, who has already lost 2 senior aides. The reasons behind Wormald's departure are not entirely clear, but it's been reported that the decision was reached by mutual agreement with the Prime Minister. Wormald's tenure as Cabinet Secretary was marked by controversy, particularly surrounding the appointment of Peter Mandelson as U.S. envoy, despite his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Starmer has faced criticism over his judgment in making this appointment, and the resignation of his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, who took responsibility for advising the PM on the hire. The government has announced that a new Cabinet Secretary will be appointed shortly, with 3 senior officials set to lead the civil service in the interim. This development is just the latest in a series of challenges facing Starmer's administration, and it remains to be seen how the PM will navigate these difficulties. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you updates as more information becomes available. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. We're diving into the latest developments in the Middle East, where a new initiative is underway to bring stability and reconstruction to the Gaza Strip. According to reports, U.S. President Donald Trump plans to announce a multi-billion-dollar fund for Gaza at the first formal meeting of his Board of Peace next week. This meeting will bring together delegations from over 20 countries, including many heads of state, to discuss the way forward for the region. The Board of Peace, established by President Trump, aims to support the reconstruction of Gaza and promote peaceful coexistence. The meeting will focus on several key areas, including the deployment of an international stabilization force, disarmament of Hamas fighters, and humanitarian aid. The U.S. officials have stated that several countries have pledged to provide troops for the stabilization force, which is expected to deploy in Gaza in the coming months. It's worth noting that the response to the Board of Peace has been mixed, with some regional powers showing enthusiasm, while traditional Western allies have been more cautious. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has confirmed Israel's participation in the board, while other countries are still assessing their involvement. As the situation in Gaza remains fragile, the success of this initiative will depend on the ability of all parties to work together towards a common goal. The international community will be watching closely as the Board of Peace meets for the first time, and will continue to bring you updates on this developing story. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. As we wrap up today's show, I want to bring to your attention a developing story in the world of U.S. politics. President Trump's nominee for a senior diplomatic post, Jeremy Carl, has hit a roadblock after a Republican senator announced his opposition to the appointment. Senator John Curtis of Utah expressed concerns over Carl's past comments on Israel and Jewish people, which he deemed unbecoming of the position. Carl, a senior fellow at the conservative Claremont Institute think tank, was nominated to be Assistant Secretary of State for International Organizations. However, during his nomination hearing, he faced tough questions from senators about his past remarks, including an appearance on a podcast where he seemed to downplay the significance of the Holocaust. While Carl attempted to clarify or distance himself from some of these comments, they have sparked widespread criticism and raised questions about his suitability for the role. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee, which oversees the State Department, is unlikely to approve Carl's nomination, given that every Democrat is expected to object, and now at least one Republican has expressed opposition. It's worth noting that Carl's nomination has been controversial from the start, with concerns raised not only about his comments but also his lack of diplomatic experience. As the story continues to unfold, it will be interesting to see how the White House responds and whether Carl's nomination can still move forward. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged.